All right, so let me tell you a secret. This that you see out there, that's not the original title that I wanted to give to this presentation. Also, this was not the original presentation I was going to provide to you. What I was going to talk about, I wanted to talk about is my course on Rail cybersecurity that I teach in Spain. This course is oriented to Rail professionals, is now in the second year, and is 105 hours of coursework. And it's been like the second year now. And what I wanted to talk about is my struggle to convince the university that this course should be held, right? When I went to the university, they told me, this is a niche on a niche. This will never work. And, I persevere. Because the reason I wanted to teach this course is because my father was a train driver, right? And all his life wanted me to be a ferroviario, a person working in rail systems. And even when I got my PhD, he always told me, don't worry, Jesus, whenever this cyber thing you are doing fails, which you're going to fail, you will be fine because I get your back, So, but he died 5 years ago, and I wanted to give something to the rail community, becoming, if you will, a ferroviario, right? So I persevered, and it worked. As it turns out, there was a lot of people that were interested in this course. The first year, the course was full. And the second year, the course is full again. And I want to tell you how difficult it was for me to find training materials for this course. I look at the web, I look at everywhere, and the truth is that it was really difficult for me to find these materials. I had the luck that there's a guide which is called TS 50701. I don't know if you know it. It's a rail guide that it tries to bridge the gap between IEC 62443, which, as you know, is horizontal, and try to bridge the gap and put it, so it can be usable to rail systems. And it has been created by the best and the brightest on rail systems. 100 people in the rail profession working on that quest. So I took that guide and used it as, basically my coursework, my training materials for this course. So that's what I sent, as a proposal. And I was like, okay, that's going to work. This is a great proposal. So Dale came back to me and said, one thing that maybe this is like a sub-theme of this talk, which is like things that make you happy and sad at the same time, right? So he sent me a mail saying like, you are accepted. I'm like, hey, happy, no? But. There was something in that presentation, was this nugget of wisdom, right? Which was, basically, I believed that we needed to create more training materials that are industry-specific in order to make OT cybersecurity better. And I thought that was self-explanatory. But Dale said, no, you should start with this. You need to convince the S4 audience that this is true. And I was obviously not happy because I already had a presentation. Having given that presentation in Rail cybersecurity conferences, they loved it. So I thought it was like going to be like a home run. But I was like, okay. So, but I was what I should do here. But I'm a father, and I have a wife. So I know when I am wrong, and I have to listen to advice, right? And also I have a Chihuahua, which happens to eat all the chicken when she should not eat the chicken, right? So I came when I received that, I did the Chihuahua prayer, which I call, It's, any Chihuahua people here? No? It goes like this. It's like, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, and the wisdom not to complain about it. So I went and asked all the people about it. It's like, you guys think this is true? And actually, to my surprise, people said, I don't think so. I have so many questions about this, right? And they were, by the way, this is not working right now, but they were basically, why do you need this? What exactly do you need this? And if you have this, what will these things look like, right? What is the type of materials you're referring to? The third one is like, I am sure these materials already exist. There's so many material about this specific. Some of them is like, I also write one of those. The fourth one was like, well, if you have these materials, what will you use them for? And the fifth one, which is probably the most controversial one, is industry-specific education better than today's OT education? So let's jump right into the first one, right? Which is, which is this, like the 1 year ago in beautiful Miami. Another thing that is happy and sad. I mean, I'm sad because my family didn't want to go to Tampa. They always go to Miami. But I'm happy because I can go happy hours. No? So it's something happy and sad. So in that 1 year ago, Mickey Schiffman, if you didn't know Mickey, he's the co-founder of Silus, which is a company that does products for rail systems, in particular intrusion detection systems. And he has a suspiciously similar title than my title, which, again, probably he didn't choose his title either, right? But what he was trying to tell us is that cybersecurity products that are industry-specific are important because they bridge a knowledge gap, right? First, look at this. Do you agree with this? Now, I can just go ahead and change this for people. When you hire somebody, and you're an asset owner, you have to bridge a knowledge gap, right? If they have OT general education, you do have to bridge a knowledge gap. Now, is this the main challenge? By the way, I corrected this because AI told me that there was some grammar problems there, but okay. So is this true? And if you think about it, it's not really true, right? Because my company, Waterfall, that's the other hat I have, a part of being a lecturer, they sell unidirectional gateways. And unidirectional gateways are horizontal, right? They can use in every industry. They are not industry specific. So you can use them. And you can hire people that have knowledge of cybersecurity and PLCs or Modbus, and they don't have to have industry specific knowledge, right? So there is something there that is missing, right? So let's go to see the current curricula looks like this for cybersecurity in OT, right? You have IT security as a foundation. Then you say IT versus OT, what are the differences? Then you go to, what are the OT devices that are different? HMIs, PLCs, Then you say, well, what OT protocols are different? There is Modbus, and then you talk about it. And then you go about the difference on the consequences. It is different. And that's when you bring usually a chemical plan, a very simple chemical plan, or a very simple water management plan with a PLC and a pump. And then finally you say, well, and the standards are different too. There are 62443, and there are NERC-CIRP. And this is perfect for some people. But there are two types of people that they don't like this. The first ones are engineers. Engineers hate this curricula. What they want to know is, how can I protect my power plant? How can I protect my water management plant? How can I do this? And there is a gap there. If you send them all the way back to IT security, they are bored. They don't know. They leave. They don't care. They want to know how to protect the power plant. And the second people are the people that need to protect things. If you're a CISO, you're a cybersecurity, cybersecurity, and then you are hired by a power plant, water plant, you have a knowledge gap there. How do I protect this? This curriculum doesn't work for me. I need to understand how this works in order to be able to protect it, right? By the way, there was another sub-theme in my other presentation about AI. And look at this and think about it for a second too. What is that, right? So there is no question there is a massive knowledge gap in order to protect critical infrastructure. And it's not maybe for everyone, but there are some people that really requires this knowledge gap. Now, you would think, what is this knowledge gap we are talking about? Well, I'm talking about network diagrams that are accurate, not the typical layered Purview model. That doesn't work in a train. I mean, that is not true in a train. There is no Purview model in a train. And the one thing that my students always fail to do correctly are risk assessments. They always fail on doing risk assessments because, first, probability is not existent. We don't know the probability of a bad event to happen. For example, if I ask my students, what is the probability of, in the case of a cyber attack, for the attacker to open the doors of the train while it's running? Well, the probability is 0, right? I mean, never happened, so must be 0. Andrew Winter, which is here, actually, like tomorrow, he has a talk about that, which is like credibility versus probability. Because what we're talking about is this attack credible or not? But even when we go to consequences, the truth is that we don't really know, is it possible to open the doors of a train while it's running in the case of a cyber attack? I have this very conversation, I did a risk assessment of a train like 4 years ago. And I talked with the engineer, and I knew for a fact that it was possible, because I knew the train computer was connected directly to the doors. So I knew it was possible, but the engineer told me it's impossible, because I am the only one that has access to the system. I am the only one that knows how to do it. So obviously this guy needed this, understanding that cybersecurity is a problem for the train. But the converse happens too. Somebody, we say, we can poison the people in our water management plant. I was in El Paso, Texas, in a water management plant, really smelly, by the way. And when I was talking with the guy, I told him, oh yeah, they can poison the water. And he's like, that's not possible. We have a guy checking the chemicals in the water every day. We will find this problem before it can go. And also, we don't have enough chemicals in the water in order to poison people. That cannot happen. I'm more worried about the pumps, for example. That's what I'm worried about. So basically, these consequences need to be tailored and mixed with cybersecurity. So I hope, there's a knowledge gap. It's obvious. Now, why do we need to cover this knowledge gap? Well, again, TS 50701 is a very good example on when 100 people that know about Rails get together and they do a guide, which I adapted for education. It doesn't have everything. It doesn't have, for example, exercises. It doesn't have, by the way, exercises. When I did the first course, I created all these exercises using AI. I created a train, and I created all these beautiful, complicated systems. And I was so happy. AI is amazing. The second year, my students now catch up with AI. They put the exercises directly in ChatGPT, and it speaks like this, you have not done that. So AI is something that education, we need to start understanding how to prevent this from happening. But this guide was really good, so that's what I'm looking for, something that has network diagrams, that has zoning examples, that provides this one, that's how you create an actually security program. In this case, Rail, we need safety. Safety is paramount in Rail, so it needs to be connected to cybersecurity. Actually, in this, they say, don't use 2-1 of 62443. Use what we say in 50701. That, by the way, now is being created as a Rail standard. So what I'm trying to look for is comprehensive guides that are created for education. And now you're asking, does this exist? And going back to what Mickey said, when you have a cybersecurity solution that is horizontal, that can be used, and it's not like Silos does, it's not. By the way, Silos is interesting because my co-teacher, Omar Ben-Humea, he is from Silos, so kudos to him. But one thing is important is when you don't have that, when you don't have an industry-specific cybersecurity product, what do? Universal gateways, which is what we sell, at the beginning, they were used for nuclear power plants, right? And then suddenly people started adopting it in other verticals, like water and other energy systems. And what I was tasked to do is to go to my engineers and ask, what is the use case? What they're doing it? And this is where I can see the split between OT education and more industry-specific education. Because my security architects, what they were telling me is is replicating OPC UA, is replicating a historian. That didn't help me. Universal gateways work by sending data one way by replication, but the fact that they were replicating these things didn't help me. What it wanted to do is, what exactly they are trying to protect? Are they trying to protect the control room? Are they trying to protect what? So I have to dig in, and I created these guides, one for Rails, one for manufacturing, lately one for energy, where I try to cover that gap for my product to say, okay, that's how we use the product. because I learn from my clients, right? Another thing that makes me happy and sad. So this diagram, so I have the great honor to get the guys that run, basically Adif, the guys that run the infrastructure for Rail, to teach one class in my course the first year. And they have amazing teaching materials and they did a great job. But I was looking for the infrastructure diagram, the architecture. And when the guy presented the architecture, he presented this, which is the architecture I created in my guide, which another thing that makes me very happy, because I'm proud that he uses my thing, but sad because I was looking for their architecture, right? So I created all these guides in lately one of energy, but the idea is this, try to see what are the assets, what are we protecting, so trying to bridge that gap. Okay, so now you still probably are not convinced. You see, there is all these guides, still there is, all these standards that are industry-oriented, aren't we? For me, the perfect metaphor is that picture. Does that look like something that an engineer would be okay with? No, it's a mess, right? But does it look like a water plant? Kind of. This is what current education materials look like. We need some people that actually put them together in a way that they are useful. And today, that is not the case. Again, don't use AI. In particular, with industry-specific stuff, the more you narrow your view, the more AI makes a lot of mistakes because it doesn't have that knowledge, because it doesn't exist. Now, what can we use it for? Obviously, to educate people, to have courses that are public and useful. One thing that's important about this course, and I was surprised, is that Ministry of Transportation was decided to fund it. So it could become very accessible. Usually they are 2,000 something, and that was 500. So they put a lot of money in order to make it very accessible, which was great news. But one of the things I want to tell you too is that it is near, if you love trains, it's near one of the most beautiful train museums in Vilanova that are there. I mean, it's amazing. It's a beautiful train museum. So again, I don't want to go ahead about the course, but the important thing is that for this course, what I use is TS 50701. Now, for the controversial thing, is industry-specific education better or not? What do you think? Better? Yes? Well, I think it depends, really. It really depends. It really depends on who are you teaching to and what are your target. Look, in my first year, I had mostly engineers. And they loved the course. They thought it was amazing. It bridged that gap, They were super happy. There were a couple of people coming from IT and didn't like it that much, but most of them, the reviews were great. This year, almost 50% of my students are coming directly from university. And I had to adapt the course a little bit, because when I started talking about things that were very like signaling systems and things that are very rail-oriented, they were a little bit lost. So I have to modify things a little bit in order to drive them in. But still, you can still do that. I still believe that there are two people that really benefits from this type of courses. One are the engineers that want to learn about cybersecurity. They need this, This is important for them because they can bring it home. They know what they're protecting. I'm protecting a train. I'm protecting an energy system. I know what you're talking about. They can relate. The second type of person are the leaders of the industry that they need to protect our systems. They also need this education. They need to understand that the train has switches that are connected in a ring network, and they need to have this education. And these two people will benefit for us to standardize how to educate this. For example, I have a student called Maite, and she was an engineer at a metro in Barcelona. And she was tasked with being the CTO of the metro. And she took the course that she found very interesting because first, she's an engineer, she understood she had real problems. They needed to implement an intrusion detection system in the metro. So for her, it was extremely good. And there is also something interesting, which is a virtuous cycle that happens here, because now Maite is coming and teaching a class this year, taught a class this year, telling her experience, like implementing the things we taught and how she chose the IDSs, what are the government problems with metros. And so it creates this virtuous cycle on people, engineers, learning cybersecurity and teaching again and making it better. So what we can do about it, and that is obviously difficult because I don't want to make another standard, and I don't want you two guys to go ahead. But I believe that we should make all these things more accessible. I did my part, I tried to do all these guides, but for example, I have a lot of people asking me about the slides I use for my course. I have like 300 slides, and I hesitate to put it out there because they're a little bit disconnected, disorganized, and it doesn't make sense if you don't have an actual structure, right? So I would love if you're academics to start looking forward how we can do this in a structured manner. I can give you what I have taught, I can organize my slides, and I will do that, and I will make it accessible. But I think we should do that for all industries, not only for rail, but also for energy, for water, and create a curricula that makes sense. And again, I can help with you, but I need help. One other thing that is really required, and honestly is very difficult, is for asset owners to provide information that is real. I have access to a lot of information because I did asset evaluation of risk assessments of trains and signaling systems, but I cannot use this because obviously it's secret. And this secrecy is also a hard thing because you cannot really show how a train looks realistically. So we should create these, I would say, synthetic, realistic examples on substations and train systems, but not like the typical Purdue model, but actually something way more realistic. I also am writing a book about putting together all the guides I've created, and I'm adding the cyber-informed engineering aspect, that everybody is talking about, how we can bring the engineering part into the systems. But I don't want this to be just a book, I don't want just to talk about, rail systems. I want to be able for people to download these exercises, which, by the way, are the most complicated thing to do, are to do realistic exercises that are helpful for the students, risk assessments that are helpful for the students, network diagrams that are helpful for students, how to implement cybersecurity products like firewalls, universal gateways, or intrusion detection systems that are helpful for the students. And this is something that cannot fit in a book, but I think we can put that, and it has to be academic. I don't want this to be like people, and that's the other problem, and obviously I am part of this, is the guides that people put, they always have an agenda. They are not for educational purposes, or they're educating, but they always trying to bring you to something, right? Maybe it's to buy something. So again, having a structured curricula that we can do, and putting it out there for free, and hopefully this book will help and point out the right direction, I think will help a lot. And I am doing that. I am contacting the people. There's 3 more courses on rail systems across the world. We're trying to do that. But, it will be very helpful if, you're interested in water or energy, please contact me. I'm in WOBAP, and we can discuss how to do it. Well, I hope I convince you that these materials are important, but if I did not, don't worry, because I'm often wrong. Right? So thank you so much. So any questions for the audience? They can use the microphone. All right, so if there's no questions, thank you so much. Enjoy the party. Bye.